Welcome back to Yellow Belly Farm. I'm Conor. It's the 3rd of September and it's 20 degrees out. We really haven't had much of a summer here in Cork in terms of good weather. A lot of wet, a lot of wind, so days like today and this Indian summer that we've been given, I'll take gladly with both hands. Today we'll just walk around the farm a little bit, catch up on the last 6 months or so, show you what's been happening. The farm is still very much a part-time effort. I'm still working full-time as a software engineer, so trying to find that balance with the spare time. I mean, I love to go outside and spend time on the farm and build, but I'm trying to run competitively too. I'm just returning from an injury. I got a stress fracture back in March in my pelvis, fairly serious injury. It's a running injury, but I've no doubt that the outdoor pursuits and what I was doing, on the weekend, trying to train and run, probably not eating enough, played a part in that. So I need to be careful. I'm 40 now. I don't recover like I used to. I need to work smarter, use the tractor where I can, get some help, and just be very patient with this, because I've no doubt everything will get done. It's a journey. It's going to take years before this is up and running properly. So I just need to enjoy it, be patient, and find that balance. So we'll take a walk around and see what's been going on. So behind me here is the shed, which I've talked about before. It's pretty much fully kitted out now. This is the tractor room here and tools, and then the wash and pack room over here, which is now functional, and I'm washing and selling salad. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Recently as well, we hosted an event here called Bellyfest, obviously. And hopefully it'll become a yearly thing. Basically invited around 30 friends and neighbours over. We had pizza ovens, we were serving food from the farm, a little bit of music, some food and drink, made our own salads, and it was all local food as well, so it was a really, really nice event. Hopefully it becomes a regular thing, and this is exactly what I wanted of this place, to bring people here to enjoy it. The car park had cars in it, so it was just a fulfillment of that dream, that vision of bringing people here, at least the start of it anyway. That noise there, buzzards hovering up above. How cool it is to see birds of prey around this area. So behind me here is the partially completed compost bay. It's very close to the nursery and the shed and the market garden, which is just there. So nice and centrally located. It's got 5 bays, about 1.3 meters wide each, and that's so I can fit the bucket of the tractor in when I'm turning it. I'm going to dedicate this bay here on the left to just brown material, and the reason being is I don't want to be just constantly throwing in all my green waste into the bays without any brown. So if I keep a stockpile of brown here, so we're talking wood chip, hay, cardboard, leaf mold, whatever I can get my hands on, keep that there, and every time I put in a lot of green material to add a layer of brown, and that'll just end up with a much nicer compost mix. It's not dominated or sludgy. I don't know what the word is. A better compost mix. So here I am in the no dig market garden. I built 4 beds this year, and it was just enough to not get overwhelming, and got lovely crops out of all of these beds. The horse manure that I put down in spring has worked wonders. The crops have all been amazing. Of course, there's been a few pest problems. Had a lot of wireworm issue, which is fully expected when you convert pasture to market garden. They're going to exist in the soil for up to 4 years, so they're just going to be around and you accept it. So I lost a few salad plants here and there, but nothing terrible. I had no real plan to sell this year. I was just growing for myself and give away to friends and family. But somehow I got to know a local retailer, an organic shop, and brought them a few sample bags, a few days, and suddenly I'm now selling to this shop 10 or 12 bags every week, and it's been great and a lovely way of dipping my toe into the retail world, getting into production and record keeping and quality control. So every Monday I come out here and I harvest enough salad for 10 or 12 bags early in the morning. I wash and I dry it, I label it, pack it up, and I bring it down to the shop on Tuesday morning. It's getting sold out every week. It's great to hear that people are actually enjoying it, and that's really one of the reasons I wanted to do this, is to bring that joy to people and feed the local community. Sure, it's only 10 or 12 bags for now, but it's a start and it's manageable while I'm working. So I come out and I pick a selection of leaves from here. I just basically pick the outer leaves of the plants. I don't cut a whole plant. That way I get a lot more bang for buck out of the plant. It often regrows within a week. I've been, picking from these plants for weeks now, and I've been sowing as well regularly, just to keep new plants getting into the ground. I'll continue doing this for a few more weeks, probably not into the winter because I don't have an indoor growing space yet. But yeah, these 4 beds have been very bountiful this summer. The other beds have given me parsnip, carrot, kale, turnip, radish, beetroot, anything you can think of. I've tried it all, and it's been fantastic. So one of the other new additions to the farm is this body of water, affectionately known as the Tragic Pond. It had a bit of a rocky start to life here at the farm. It was dug back in probably March or February, by Jim, the same guy who did all the other groundworks for me. It was a very mucky day and wet, and nobody wanted to be there. But we dug the pond anyway. It's about 1 metre deep in the middle. The problem is it didn't hold water on the first fill. I'd say about 2 weeks later, I came out and it was just gone. There's no water in it. So it's lined with what's called GCL, geosynthetic clay liner. I didn't want to use plastic because I read a lot about this material, and that it holds water really well and doesn't need to be replaced. So thought I'd try it. It comes in these strips. So we laid out the strips, and then you spread the bentonite clay powder between the joints, and that's supposed to create a seal. Then you're supposed to backfill with 30 centimeters or so of clay. Now we didn't do that. I just thought it would be okay, but I thought wrong. And sure enough, the water was slowly seeping out of it. So I came down, I did backfill it with soil, and then I also installed this float valve over here. So I ran water pipe all the way down to here and fitted it with this float valve, which essentially acts, like a toilet bowl. When you flush the toilet and it fills back up, once the water falls below this level, it'll start filling itself back up. And from what I see, it doesn't actually switch on a lot now. It seems to be holding water really well. If I pull this up, it starts spilling water out, and then once it gets back to this level, it stops. So it's always going to maintain a good water level, and I don't think it's using a lot of water. I could be wrong. There's already some pond plants in there. I bought some aquatic plants in a local garden centre. I think this is actually a really invasive plant, but it's okay. I mean, it's good to have the water covered. You don't want completely open water unprotected, especially when in this area where there's no trees around. It's just completely open to the sun, and that can get stagnant. So it's good to have water cover. I planted some wildflower seeds around it, which created a nice little bit of vegetation. I'm sure over time it'll figure out its own balance. There are probably some plants that don't like being near water here, so they probably won't survive. And there's a weeping willow tree over there. They always look good near water. And this section here was built as a kind of very gentle slope as opposed to the other side. And the idea here was just to allow wildlife come and use it as a drinking hole, or if wildlife managed to fall in, that they could easily get back out, hedgehogs or whatever, even though that would be very funny. And so far it seems like the wildlife are being attracted to it. I put a wildlife can down here for a while, and all sorts of birds are definitely coming down here to use it for drinking water. I expect frogs to find it at one point, and that'll be great, because frogs will just keep the slug population in check. The market garden is just there, and I'm very happy for the frogs to make this a home and take care of the slugs up in the market garden. That'll be great. And I'm sure other things will find this over time and make it their home. They might not even leave it. This could be a whole new habitat for a lot of species. And it's also a really nice place to just come and sit. I'm here in the area next to the shed where I put down some black plastic back in March to kill this grass, kill the grass and weeds, so I'd have an area to plant into next year. So it's performing that function, so I said, while I have this down, why not use it as a way of growing an extra crop? So I burnt some holes into the plastic and I planted in some squash, pumpkin and courgettes, and it's been bountiful. I mean, I've got so many courgettes out of probably 8 plants. I don't know what to do with them. I'm selling a lot in a local shop. The squash and the pumpkin are all going to get harvested soon, and they're absolutely delicious. I had some butternut squash recently, and it's just a really nice way of getting like what I would call a bonus crop out of an area that would otherwise just be sitting here. So what I did is, underneath the plastic, I spread a few amendments like seaweed dust and rock dust and a general fertilizer, and I grew some transplants in the nursery. Maybe grew them for 4 or 5 weeks and just planted them straight into the holes, and the place just exploded with life. Now it's really dying back now, and that's mainly due to this what you see on the leaves here, which is mildew, and that's a very common fungus that, you know, that will attack all of these types of cucurbit plants, especially in our climate, which is wet summers and very warm, which is ideal conditions for a fungus to thrive. But generally at the point that it arrives, we've got our harvest. The pumpkin will keep on growing despite the fact that the leaves are dying back, and it's not something to really worry about. It just doesn't look great, but it's particularly being bad, I think, this year, and I've heard a few other farmers saying it was bad because of our wet summer, but it's not a big concern. We've got our harvest out of these plants. You can see there's a few more squash and pumpkins in there ready to harvest, and I think this is a great way to use, if you are going to use plastic. Everybody, you know, nobody likes using plastic, but while it's doing one job, why not use it to grow a crop as well, though you are left with holes in the plastic. While I'm here in the pumpkin patch, I want to show you this tool washing station that I built earlier in the year, and it's been great because it's really forced me into good habits and discipline into washing my tools every time I'm finished with them. So I just bring my tools here. I've got a high pressure hose here, and basically it's just very easy now and quick to wash my tools, and it doesn't feel like much effort when it's all set up and ready to go. I think it's just important for hygiene and tool maintenance to keep them clean. So when I'm finished with my tools, I hang them at the back here behind the tractor. These other benches here I built recently as well. These are using a more kind of reinforced steel mesh. These 2 benches I will use to clean my baskets, my containers, and also for washing root veg. The wash and pack room in here, which I'll probably do a more detailed video on. I've got a wash area over there and some drying racks. That's for the more delicate plants like the salad. Also adjacent to the pumpkin patch here, as I'm calling it, is this little probably 5 by 5 meter section, and it was pretty much a trial where I threw down a load of wildflower seed mix. It's a native mix, and it's absolutely thrived and put on an incredible show all summer. There was kind of like a purple sensation effect earlier in the year when the Phacelia was flowering, and now the calendula and sunflower and the dill in there. It's a beautiful mix, and I would definitely like to do this on a larger scale out in one of the fields. And now to one of my favourite areas, the Perennial patch, which put on another great show this year. And look at this right here, giant oriental poppy just coming into flower, and it's amazing how many plants have suddenly just started reblooming in the last few weeks, when I thought, you know, summer was over and we've seen all the colour and beauty, but there's something for every part of the season, and that's something I've always wanted in this area. So at one point here, this was full of artichokes, but we had a lot of wind in the summer, and there was one particular day where the wind was 110 kilometers, basically took down the whole row. So without supports, artichokes are pretty much pointless here, I'm learning. And sunflowers, they're the same family. The nasturtiums here are just, wow, flourishing. The word. I planted some raspberry here earlier this year. That's looks like it's going to give a bit of fruit soon because it's an autumn flowering type. That was taken from a cutting over there, those trees. This is strawberry patch here. I got a lot of nice fruit from the strawberries this year, and gooseberries, chives, a lot of good food. I've had to cut back all of the runners recently because they were going absolutely wild, and this area really needs to be weeded. We've got a beautiful blueberry bush here, which is the colour of the leaves. Now this did not give me fruit this year, or maybe it did and it came and went and I didn't know about it. It's still great to see all this colour at this time of year. The yarrow. These are what's known as Egyptian walking onions. I didn't see it happen this year, but what should happen is bulblets will form at the tip and the plant will just fall over and plant the next generation into the soil beside it. So basically it just walks down the bed. So I haven't harvested them this year. I'll just leave them grow and see what happens next year. Comfrey has been monstrous this year, and that's a great dynamic accumulator. Builds incredible fertility around it, and I've cut those leaves a few times, and I've cut it back probably twice this year, and then brought the leaves into the compost or spread them under a tree or something. This is the mint area. Some new leaves forming already. Spearmint. Absolutely beautiful. You can see the chocolate mint is flowering. So this area definitely needs a bit of a clean up, but in general it's pretty good. This patch here was used for potatoes. I had my earlies in here and the lates at the back. So here I had varieties called Vita Bella and Sevilla. And then at the back I planted an organic variety called Sarpomira. It's blight resistant. Potatoes were delicious. So I pulled up all potatoes and I put down a green manure of mustard, and I just sprinkled the seed onto the soil. And the mustard will hopefully have another function as a biofumigant, which means basically it will deter the wireworm, which are a big problem for potatoes. We'll see if that works or not. So I'm down at the south boundary now, and happy to see that the hedgerow is making progress this year. Some of the plants are even taller than me, like this one up here, this elder. And this is very much welcomed, not only in terms of its wind breaking, but think of all that elderflower cordial. I know I wanted to invite wildlife onto my farm, and it's happening, but it's happening too well. Recently I noticed that a lot of my fruit trees were getting decimated, and I really just had no idea. I mean, I refused to believe there was deer coming onto the property. I mean, look where we are. There's no forestry around, but there is at the very bottom of this hill. It's a crop of spruce or something, and this is the result of it. So you see some of the trees behind me, absolutely decimated. And what's happening is that the male deer, I gather, are using the trees to clean the skin off their antlers. They're also eating them. So what I find is some of the trees like this, basically stubs, dead as a doornail, and then others have just been pretty much stripped back of all their leaves and not looking great. This one too. This is not the only area, so the trees in the middle patch here, that's kind of the original, my favourite row. The bottom trees there are gone. And then the fruit forest or food forest that I planted near the car park, also destroyed. And funny enough, that's where I found out that deer were the problem, because I installed CCTV over the summer. And it just occurred to me, why not check that? And of course, 4 o'clock in the morning one night, 3 or 4 deer were just wandering around, chomping, headbutting the trees and causing mayhem. So it's a problem. Not sure what the solution is yet. Fencing, shotgun, electric fence, I don't know. It's not something that I can just continue to let happen though, because I don't think fruit trees are going to be the only victims. And they kind of see this as a place now that they can come undisturbed. I've given them loads of nice paths to wander up and down. So need to nip that in the bud. I'm in the nursery now, and I'm not going to be staying long here. I'm already sweating. 42.8 degrees. And I'll just point out a few things. I planted some melon into the soil here. For ages I was just seeing this one melon here growing very slowly, and then suddenly, probably 2 days ago, I spot this, a second one. So it's kind of nice and protected. It's looking a lot healthier than the other melon, and we'll see what happens with this one. I would love to get some melon. Imagine. Okay, the heated propagation bench, needless to say, does not need heat these days. These are a couple of lavender plants still growing. I didn't get them in the ground this year. I just potted them up into bigger containers, and they'll go in next year. These are grapes, would you believe? And last October, when I was in Cyprus, I was walking through a village in the mountains, and I picked a few grapes off a tree hanging over the wall of some house, and I said, I'm going to hang on to some of these and to see what happens. And I sowed them. Sowed all 3 of them, and all 3 of them now have grown into these plants. So I think once I clear all the melon out, I might put a grape plant over there, and maybe some more in the corner here once I get rid of all these containers. So the reason I have containers here is that I didn't have the polytunnel finished, and I really wanted to grow some of the heat-loving crops. Don't say the word heat. And so I planted some tomato, some eggplant or aubergine, peppers into these containers, and I did get some lovely crops of tomatoes this year. Any extra plants that I did have that I didn't have containers for, I put in the ground, like this tomato plant here, and you can see it's given us a bounty of beautiful red tomatoes with loads more to come. So it was good to get experience growing tomatoes. This green forest here It's a consequence of a rogue seed that found its way into this compost bin here, and I said I'd just let it go, and turns out it was a pumpkin plant, and it kind of grew well for a while, died back in the summer, and now it bounced back to life. And in here somewhere there, can you see it? There's a pumpkin. Here's some more of the peppers and tomatoes. These are actually red peppers, not chilies. And there's some bell peppers. Something in here has been eating all the fruit as well. It's not just me. But I can't wait to actually grow tomatoes in the ground and not containers, because it's not great the amount of watering you need to do, and they just get out of control. But it was good. We got a lot of food out of it. Please, can I leave now? Yeah. Leave that door open. Oh, that breeze. Take a quick walk to the herb garden. So the herb garden consists of 4 rows. This area was formerly just nothing. I filled it with compost, mushroom compost, and then I put on wood chip on top of it, and I created 4 rows. I created a willow hedge here. This willow hedge has been the star of the summer. These were put in the ground as cuttings, just pencil cuttings in February, and they've grown just unbelievably well. I've even had to trim them back a few times. This row here was a bit of a disaster this summer. In the middle was a nice row of sunflowers which grew really nice and tall, and then about a month ago, maybe during that same storm that killed all of the artichokes, oh, the sunflowers were basically decimated, and it kind of destroyed a lot of the other flowers around them, because we've got some nice Rudbeckia, borage, calendula. They're kind of bouncing back a bit now, but it was utter devastation. Another star this summer has been this sweet pea. And when these started off, I was really worried. The plants looked so bad. I didn't think they were going to make it. They were withered and they looked like they were dying. And then maybe it's the late start that they got, but they've absolutely come into their own, and they smell just beautiful. I love the different colours. Here behind me in this row, we've got a load of parsley. That's only probably about 6 plants. That's the Italian flatleaf parsley. We've got some rosemary, thyme. This is all grown from seed. Tarragon. We've got some sage plants. Again, these are all still very young. They'll grow a lot better next year, I think. We've got oregano. We've got chive. Another sage plant. Chamomile. Calendula. Marjoram, which is a sweeter oregano, I think. Dahlia. The cosmos has been flying it this year as well. These are coriander and dill plants that got out of control and died with their own weight and have gone to seed. We've got some mint there, strawberry mint, chocolate mint, and this row was probably a bit of a disaster. These are climbing French beans. You can see the weight of these French beans pulled down the whole wire and even caused the post on the other side to fall out of place. So it definitely needs more support in the middle, or basically just don't grow it here. I think it got too much wind as well. The leaves are not looking great, and the actual fruit themselves don't look very healthy. But then there was some bush beans down here, which I did. They're the non-climbing variety of French beans, and I did get a lot of fruit out of them. And we had just garden peas here, which have all come and gone, and some broad beans over here, which again were never harvested because just didn't get around to it. I planted some cuttings of poplar here. They're forming a nice little wind barrier and continuing to grow, even if they're at an angle. And the same along here. So basically just a few more wind barriers. There's some more cuttings in the ground there that I took from the willow hedge. So the herb garden, it's a lot of work with the weeding, but a lot of the stuff here, like beans, are not going to grow here next year. This is just a temporary thing. I have nowhere else to grow beans. I want everything in this garden at some point to be self-sustaining, whether it's a perennial or a self-seeding annual that I can just leave. But in general, it's a really nice place to just walk around. It's close to the house if you ever need to come out and get herbs for cooking. So serving its purpose, I would say. So another unfinished project, but a lot of headway made on this as well. This is the first main growing tunnel. It's 15 meters by 6, I think, with about 90 square meters of growing space inside it. So the structure is pretty much built. I've got a small layer of horse manure laid underneath. I need to build the beds, finish some of the framing and put plastic on, and hopefully that will get done next week when I'm off work. So I've done a lot of work in the background here on providing services to the tunnel in terms of water and power underneath this lid, which is an underground kind of valve, and this hasn't been open in months, so it's great to see everything is still intact. Basically these are valves which control water supply to this tunnel and potentially 2 more tunnels down that way. So I've dug underground pipes, and they're kind of coming up out of the ground further down there. So in this tunnel I've got power here coming from the shed, and I've got 2 valves here, one to control the drip lines on the beds here, and another one to control overhead mist irrigation if I need. So it's nice to have that option. And these are wired back to a Wi-Fi controller in the shed, so that can either be put on a timer or I can control it from my phone if I'm abroad. Peace of mind. If I'm not here, that stuff is getting watered, though you still can't beat just walking around with a watering can and inspecting and looking at the plants, but this is still a nice system to have. So now entering the food forest, which is devoid of trees thanks to our dear friends. We've got this skeleton of a tree left. Here they took the whole tree. That's the one from CCTV. Some are remaining. There's a willow. That's basically not going to do much anymore. This peach over here, again, it's basically a stick. Hazel is okay. I grew a little teepee here because I had extra French beans left over, and look, the beans don't look great, but hey, some of them are going to be very much edible. Thank you very much. I did construct a little bit of a path through here. We've got our Italian alder, which is doing okay. There's another hazel still surviving. Spindle was decimated. Might just survive. The leaves are coming back. This apple tree, it's safe to say that's gone. More hazel is doing okay. Oh, pear tree. What pear tree, you say? Oh, that one. That's another spindle. I think I put a branch or a trunk protector on it. A bit too late in some cases. And another relic, tree relic. So they don't seem to eat the hazel. This area has gone very much wild, but I kind of like it. And that brings us to the end. And check out that sign that I said I would do one day. To be honest, the fact that I committed to Bellyfest meant a lot of things that were on the maybe list were done. And this section here, as my neighbour's son calls the volcano, was scattered with wildflower seed as well, and another symphony of colour. Wood chip piles up there, and my horse manure still intact. And the car park, which actually had cars in it recently. This little section here were 2 beds I used for garlic and onions, which were overwintered. I've now replanted with spinach in this bed, and you can see barely through that insect netting. Kale to be overwintered. The insect netting is not for insects, it's for the other pest that insists on trying to ruin my life, which is rabbits. Back in the nursery, very briefly, to show you some of the squash harvests. I don't know the names of all of these, but these are beautiful. We cooked up one of these for Bellyfest and served it in a squash salad, and it was absolutely delicious. Just nothing like food straight out of the soil. I can't believe it's 2nd September and I'm absolutely sweating, but I'm not going to complain. I'm going to sit on one of my benches and wrap this up. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the walk around. I'm sure there's a few things I forgot. It's hard to believe it's 18 months since I first started working on this land, and I have to appreciate a lot has been done, and I've got a lot of good help from people, and I'm really thankful for that. I've got some great mentors and people that are happy to advise me. It's a really great community, the growing community. And in fact, I've just started a new program called the Horse's Mouth. It's a mentorship program, and I've been assigned a mentor who runs Manna Organic Farm in Kerry. So I'm going down to do a farm walk on his place next week, and then he's going to come and visit me for a consultation, and it's going to be just amazing getting some advice from him. So we're going to have a walk around the farm. He'll advise me in different areas, and it kind of focuses on biodiversity. The program is run by a group called Farming for Nature. So the more and more help I can get from people and be inspired by people, this is helping to build this place, and it's going in the right direction. I'm really enjoying it, so let's keep it going. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.